Good morning. It is a beautiful morning here in North Wales, and the sun is shining, and it's time for more stamp collecting fun. So, what am I looking at today? Well, I'm looking at people on stamps. So, have you ever picked up a stamp and thought, who's that person on the stamp? But it's too late as you drop the letter into the postbox, and you don't really know who's on the stamp. But there are many, many stamps which have people on them. So, I thought we'd have a little look people on stamps. Don't walk on stamps. Get off the stamps, Bill. People on stamps. You get it, don't you? It's poor, but we do our best. Right, so we'll have a look at 3 stamps which have people upon them. I will start, I think, with this stamp here. So, Correos de Cuba. And it's got a date on it, 1962. Not sure if that helps at all. We've got a person there. It's a 3 cent. I don't know what's going on there. But I put AI on the job and Google Lens, and it came up with this. This person is Abel Santamaria, which is a very Cuban name, I suppose, Santa Maria. He was actually a Cuban revolutionary, so that's why he's on a Cuban stamp. He lived from the years 1927 until 1953, so he died pretty young, which suggests it didn't end well. He was actually a revolutionary, so he was fighting against the government of Batista, which was going around the 50s. And he was actually with Castro on an assault of the Moncada barracks. Now, unfortunately, he was captured there and apparently tortured and then killed whilst in prison by the government. He was actually with his sister in the battle, so him and his sister fought side by side in that battle to overthrow the government. And she survived the battle, by the way. She died in 1990 and became one of the Communist Party leaders in Cuba after the fall of the Batista government. And also did, her name was Heidi. She did things, cultural things, to do with communism in Cuba to spread the, you know how it is. So what else do we know about him? Well, he does have an airport named after him. So his name will live long and proud into the history of Cuba, presumably. Certainly as long as it remains a communist country, I would expect that airport to remain the same. It's the Abel Santa Maria Airport. Not in Havana, but somewhere else, so maybe it's a smaller one. But that is that interesting stamp. So that was him. Handsome guy. No wife or children, dedicated his life to the communist cause. Okie dokie, we'll go to the next stamp, please, which is this little beauty. Now, I sort of knew who this was. He's got a face that every mother would love, hasn't he? But it's Martin Luther, who caused a lot of trouble for the Catholic Church back in the day. So what do we know about Martin Luther? This is a Czechoslovakia stamp, by the way. So they're quite keen on Luther, by the look of it. Well, he was born in 1483. Was it 1483 or 63? Not quite sure, somewhere around there. Just a 20 years difference. We'll call it 83 for cash. In 1505, he joined a monastery. So he was a religious person. Catholics, of course, back in those days. But by the time of 1517, which was purely 12 years later, he had actually sparked the Protestant Reformation, which had implications across Europe, in Britain as well. It was Henry VIII's time, Good Queen Bess. There was a lot of foment going on around religion. So in 1517, he was a very educated man, so in monasteries you didn't go there just to pray, you go there to learn and to think. It was a educatory, if that's even a word. institution though in those days. Possibly still is today, so they do create honey and beer. Um, but his work led him to disavow the rule of the Pope, and this made him excommunicated by Pope Leo X. This being in 1521. 4 years later, he married a nun, or an ex-nun, that she became. They had 6 children. He died in 1546. He had 6 kids in total. One was a lawyer, that was Hans, and another son, Paul, was a chemist. And I'm sure, that they had children and children's children, and before you know it, I'm sure there's Luthers all over there's Luthers all over, aren't there? Okie dokie, where was he born? Well, he was born in Saxony, which was a separate state to Germany, but it is Germany now, obviously. But Saxony had its own country. Eisleben, he was born on the 10th of November, actually 1483. And he died of heart problems and also pretty painful kidney stones. Now, we've all heard of Martin Luther, but we've also heard of Martin Luther King. So is he any relation, or is he a descendant of Martin Luther? The answer is no. Martin Luther King's father was called Martin King, and he added the name Luther to himself and also to his son Martin Luther King Jr., who we all know as the person who was assassinated. Black rights advocate, leader. Now, Martin King Sr., or Martin Luther King as he became senior, he had been inspired by the great reformer, by the original Martin Luther, by this chap here. His battles against authority, his battles against what he saw was the truth. So, it's been passed. The Martin Luther is still today in everybody's, maybe not everybody's, but those of a certain age, in people's minds. So the name lives on. Nice stamp, that. Czechoslovakia. Of course, the Czechs here have produced it because it's possibly an anniversary, 83. So this stamp is probably to celebrate the 20th anniversary, 200th anniversary of his birth. I would think so. I haven't checked actually about the stamp. Only the people. Very, very nice people. Okay, we come to the finally moment, and we've got this. So what have we got here? Well, a German stamp immediately. This jumps out. Centrum there. I don't like these modern day Germany stamps. They all go through the central postal system and they're the same, cancel over and over again. The days of picking up a stamp with Berlin on it seem to have gone in Germany. Anyway, who do we have here? Well, we have a very handsome chap with an exceptionally good moustache. I had to put him under Google Lens, and it turned out that this is, you're not going to believe it, this is Engelbert Humperdinck. The original Engelbert Humperdinck. Now, as we know, there are two. So we're going to have a look at the original Engelbert. This stamp was produced in 2004 and celebrates the 150th anniversary of the birth of this great man. Why do I say he's a great man? Well, everyone's heard of what he did, which is he did the opera Hansel and Gretel. So he's really well known for that. He lived from, when was he born? I can't quite, he was born, I don't know anyway where he was born, but he certainly died in 1921. He was married. He married somebody called Hedwig Taxer in 1887, and they had 2 children. Now, his son Wolfram was actually also a musician and one of those conductors, and did great work in music. And his daughter Hedwig, which was named for his wife, actually helped his father and was involved in Hansel and Gretel as a libretto, and also became a music teacher and teacher of other stuff in Germany. Uh, what else do I know about the original Engelbert Humperdinck? Well, there will be Humperdinck's in Germany to this day because I believe Wolfram was married and he died as late as 1985, which is in living memory for all of us, I think. So if he's had children and they've had children's children, you know what I mean. There will be Humperdincks all over the place. Okay, what about the other Humperdinck? The Please Release Me, Engelbert Humperdinck. How dare he take the name of this great man? And who sold more records? And why did he choose such an unbelievable name? Well, as we know, the modern day, although he is 88 at the minute, Engelbert Humperdinck, so our Engelbert, he released Please Release Me, which was massive, and The Last Waltz, which was also massive. He was still performing well into his 80s. He may still be now, I don't know. He was born Arnold Dorsey, and he had a roommate called Gordon Mills who thought that he was struggling to break into the pop scene with the name Arnold Dorsey. I think he was from Leicester, and suggested that he suggested the name Engelbert Humperdinck in 1965, and the rest is history. The original, so this chap here, the original Engelbert Humperdinck, he died of a heart attack in 1921, as I said, and he was only 67. Well, he was 67, which is my age now. But, maybe his legacy lives on in the other person. So we've seen we've seen Engelbert Humperdinck, someone else take his name, Martin Luther, someone there hijacked his name maybe, and Abel Santa Maria, nobody hijacked his name. So that's it for now. 12 minutes have gone. People on stamps. Very interesting stories to be had around people. We'll just go back to what's going on in here. He's still on the stamps. People on stamps. Don't walk on stamps. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and finally, good night.